So, we've got a number 1 deluxe meal. Is there anything else I can get you?
Yeah, I'd also like a good night's sleep.
Excuse me, sir?
You know, the I didn't struggle all night with my uncomfortable CPAP mask, or something like the my wife didn't kick me out to sleep on the couch because of my constant tossing and turning.
Sir, we don't have anything like that here. I think what you're looking for is Inspire. It's an implant that works inside your body to treat sleep apnea without a CPAP. That way you can breathe normally and rest more soundly.
Come on!
Oh, he sounds hangry. Inspire is the only FDA-approved sleep apnea treatment of its kind. It's helping tens of thousands of people finally get restful sleep. To learn more, visit InspireSleep.com. That's InspireSleep.com. Inspire, sleep apnea innovation. Inspire is not for everyone. Talk to your doctor to see if it's right for you, and review important safety information at InspireSleep.com.
This podcast of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, is sponsored by AAA Heating and Air.
The premier HVAC company in the Midlands is growing. Are you a top HVAC technician?
AAA Heating and Air is looking for dedicated applicants to fill their fast-growing service department with top-notch HVAC technicians.
If you're the best, then they want you. If you're ready to stop working and start a career, you can earn up to $100,000 plus a year at AAA Heating and Air.
Quality candidates will have at least 2 years experience and a good driving record. Benefits include top industry salaries, commission on service and unit sales, set call limits, company-provided take-home vehicle and gas card, company-provided cell phone and tablet, health, dental, and vision benefits, 401k retirement plan with company match, and scaled PTO based on length of service.
Contact Roy and Dana Finley at 803-677-1500 or check out their job postings on Facebook or ZipRecruiter.
AAA Air when you need us. AAA Heating and Air.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, founded by firemen, with Chris Clark.
The 2007 South Carolina class was, at that time, 6th in the country and 4th in the SEC, which is amazing.
Wes Mitchell.
You know, I think if you're South Carolina, you're aiming to at least be at 50%. Then in theory, you're adding talent, you're getting better, you're putting yourself in a position to compete.
And Tyler Head.
It's been a great week for South Carolina. On the recruiting front, still certainly plenty to talk about.
On the home of the Gamecocks, 107.5 The Game.
Was he met? Oh, that's going to be a 15-yarder there. No doubt about it. DJ Swearinger, as if he couldn't help himself. He's going to learn a lesson on that one. But did he ever lay out Ellington?
And welcome into the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs here on 107.5 Game. Tyler, Wes, and Chris along with you. And given that we just talked to DJ Swearinger a few minutes ago, wrapping up the Garnet Trust Hour, I couldn't help. I had to play the highlight.
I'm glad you did. The only person that learned a lesson on that was Clemson.
Yes.
And Andre
he's going to learn a lesson. Nah,
he did not learn his lesson. DJ continued that for the majority of his career, and it worked quite well for him.
DJ knew one speed, fast.
Yes, and there's no let up in that guy. Always respected the way he played the game. Better play. That, which is iconic. We were talking about that, Wes, a few minutes ago. Or the 2012 USC-Arkansas game where you had penalty, pick six by DJ Swearinger, and then he chucked the ball in the stands and got another penalty.
I'll go Arkansas.
Really?
Yeah. Just for,
the sequence was like more.
It was amazing.
It was.
But dude, he also that drive at the time it ended up working out because South Carolina won the game.
Mm-hmm.
But when he got that penalty against Ellington, that was an automatic first down for Clemson in a tight ball game.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I could see both sides. Like, big picture, his attitude, like what he brought to that team, is probably why South Carolina won a lot of those games, because they sort of approached the Clemson game as like, hey, we expect to win this game at the time. However, within that actual sequence, it was not really viewed by people as a great play because it created a 15-yard penalty and a first down at the time. But it has become like an iconic moment because it kind of just, I guess, expressed the way South Carolina, I guess, didn't really have a lot of respect for Clemson at the time, I feel like. I mean, honestly, the shot of him coming onto the field in Death Valley and batting down a pass or catching it and tossing it aside as Clemson is warming up is, I mean, complete lack of respect for Clemson at the time.
So you mentioned the Arkansas game.
Yep.
Well, our computer
that was
doesn't
our
want to
remix.
act right.
Wes, when you were gone, Wes was gone for that,
Yeah,
right?
he was gone for that one.
So we were coming in. We were an iconic moment on the show now. We were coming in from a break, and we were trying to play some Mac Brown audio. And we thought that Tyler had put together the coolest remix ever because it was like Mac Brown, like, it was like South Carolina.
It sounded really good.
It sounded
I didn't
great.
do it on purpose. I was attempting to play.
You should have just went with it, though.
Yeah, I know. He gave himself away.
I know. I was attempting to play the call of the Swearinger pick six against Arkansas. Our computer's been acting up, so unfortunately wasn't able to do that.
Well, it was awesome. I mean, so USC's up 24-10. Swearinger horse collared a guy. Then somebody called a short pass. Swearinger hit him.
Blew him up.
Got a personal foul.
I remember thinking that was not a good call, though.
It wasn't.
Yeah.
I remember DJ after the game was like, I just hit him with my shoulder. Like, it was no. Then 69-yard pick six. Then he chucked the ball in the stands, got a personal foul. So 45 yards of penalties, but a pick six. And helped South Carolina seal that win. So.
In 2012, targeting didn't come in until 13, correct?
DJ would have to play a little differently nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
I mean,
I'm pretty sure targeting came in 13.
Well, maybe targeting in its current
as we know it today.
Yeah.
You still had personal fouls for egregious hits. It was just not known as targeting. At that
We don't know. We don't know what it is.
We don't know what targeting is. I will say college football does a better job with their targeting rule than like the NFL does because you can at least review it. Because I understand erring on the side of caution. Like, okay, if that looked malicious, sure, but you have the ability to overturn. In the NFL, it's like, well, it looked malicious. It wasn't, but it's still 15-yard penalty.
Yeah. DJ would probably have to alter his play a little bit. But yeah, he was awesome. I mean, you can go back to that Clemson game. That him coming out on the field and knocking the pass down, I mean, it's kind of like meme worthy nowadays that like the game was over before it started.
Didn't DJ have to miss a first half of a game though because of targeting
in 2012? Yeah, it was. I don't know if it was called targeting then. I guess it was, or maybe it's some different form. But it was like a hit on a defenseless receiver.
But they did have you miss. You're tossed from the game.
Yeah, he got suspended for, I don't know if it's a half or something. So there's some form.
2012 was his final year at South Carolina.
Yeah, that would be right because he
was
came
picked in the 2013 draft.
Yeah, that's right. So, he was telling us, Wes, about some of the stuff he's got going on this weekend. The Swearinger Center he's working on up in his hometown of Greenwood, almost said Greenville. Giving back to the community there, having some camps. The Grind Flu Camp, a free field day, and a 5-on-5 tournament.
The Grind Flu Camp?
The Grind Flu Camp.
I mean, it could be that or Two Spoons Camp, I guess.
Well, he's got the Two Spoons Foundation.
Yeah.
And then the Jungle Boy Swag Twitter handle. So he's got all the DJ Swearinger
all branding. His branding is in place.
Is fully in place there.
Dig that. Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, absolutely awesome. And, going back to that hit against Clemson, Chris was explaining to me, I knew about the hit. Obviously knew it was, a big deal, but I did not understand kind of the lore around it, which makes sense. It came in a rivalry game, but when he and I were talking about like the greatest plays in Gamecock history last week, a lot of people brought it up, and it brought my understanding of how people viewed around here to a different level.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of interesting. I don't know if I would have put it as in the conversation for best South Carolina play ever, me personally, but again, I'll go back to what I said earlier. It kind of embodied the rivalry at the time, and just kind of that sense of, hey, we're gonna win this game, and you're gonna feel it while we do. And I think you look at that South Carolina defense at the time, and the way they played. Swearinger was not, and I think he would agree with this. He was not the most naturally talented guy on that defense, but I think a lot of people would probably argue, and maybe rightfully so, they missed Swearinger after he left as much as anybody on that entire defense. And obviously, you had your Clownies, you had your Stephon Gilmores, maybe a step below that, you had a load of other guys who were really, really good and really, really talented. But Swearinger took that defense where it was going, basically, and he was their undisputed leader, and he was fearless both on the field and in the way he pushed everybody else. And so I think certainly Gamecock fans remember him in a way differently than anybody else, I think, just because they remember the swag, for lack of a better way. That's who he is.
Yeah.
They remember that, and it sort of permeated that defense.
And as we talked about with him in those couple minutes we had him on the phone, it's cool that he's giving back to communities. He mentioned Greenwood's not a huge area, and not a lot of access to some of the things that maybe you would have in a place like Columbia. So definitely cool that he's going out there and doing these camps and giving back to his community. He says he's been doing it for a decade, and very, very cool to see what he's going to be doing this weekend.
Yeah, he's always cared about stuff like this, and he does the Gamecock Celebrity Basketball Tournament most years as well. He's tried to do that on the spring game weekend a few times, and just really cool to see DJ not only have success on the field, but bring that back to both the South Carolina Gamecock community and, of course, his hometown community there in Greenwood.
Right. So from a former Gamecock to a current Gamecock, we will recap the conversation that we had with Joshua Simon from the Garnet Trust Hour. That's coming up next here on the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs on 107.5 The Game.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. 107.5 The Game.
We've been telling you about it all this week since it launched on July 10th. You got to go check out at one of the Midlands Firehouse Subs locations their new limited time offering. It's the pepperoni meatball sub. I had it yesterday for an early lunch. Absolutely fantastic. And I got a tip for you. This is verified. You can do it. If you go to the app, I think this works for most locations. Download the Firehouse Subs app, which you should have anyway, because every time you order through it, every time you scan it, put in your information at Firehouse Subs, it's going to give you points, and you can use those points to get yourself some free food in the future at Firehouse Subs. Download the app, order the new pepperoni meatball limited time offering sub, and you can get it for just $6 for a medium. Awesome deal. It's outstanding. Your favorite meatball sub at Firehouse Subs, but with a little twist, a little different, toasted, melty, pepperoni, oregano, absolutely outstanding. Get it for $6 through the app. They also still have their sub of the day. So today's sub of the day, the spicy Cajun chicken, that's $7.99 for a medium, $5.99 for a small. Get it at all 14 Midlands Firehouse Subs locations. To find the closest one near you, go to firehousesubs.com. You can use the Rapid Rescue or download the Firehouse Subs app and get yourself the new pepperoni meatball sub before it goes away.
Recapping our conversation with Joshua Simon coming up next. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, 107.5.
For a limited time, Sweet Deals is offering qualified listeners the vacation of a lifetime. An all-inclusive 5-day, 4-night stay in a suite for just 2 adults and up to 2 children in Cancun, Mexico for just $299. This opportunity is valued at more than $2,600. That's right, a $2,600 vacation for $299, and it's all-inclusive, meaning all your food and drinks are included. Attendance is required at a presentation for Vacation Club ownership, but who cares? There's no purchase necessary, and you have a 30-day money-back guarantee if you change your mind. Do not miss this exclusive luxury vacation offer from SweetDeals.com. $299 for 4 nights at an all-inclusive resort in beautiful Cancun, Mexico. Go to SweetDeals.com right now and snag this once-in-a-lifetime offer. That's SweetDeals.com.
Don't do too much, though, when you go to get your DMV photo, because there's going to be a time to where you're not going to have your eyelashes on, your hair's going to be a different color.
I've been there.
And it's going to be 4 o'clock in the morning, and you cried all that mascara off, and the office is going to look at you and go, "That's not you."
But women don't. That's why I always take them swimming on a first date. Just saying. Gotta know what I'm dealing with.
No, by swimming.
Cannonball!
Surprise!
Yeah.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Presented by Firehouse Subs. Founded by firemen with Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, and Tyler Head. On your home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game.
You have been selected as the first astronaut to explore the planet Mars. The countdown is progressing, and you're...
And welcome back into the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Here on 107.5 The Game, Tyler, West, and Chris along with you. Before we talked to DJ Swearinger, Josh Simon was the guest on today's edition of the Garnet Trust Hour. Great conversation with him. And I think I remember Chris telling this story back when it happened, but you recapped the phone call while he was rabbit hunting.
That was outstanding. Josh, he hunts for a lot of things, but I was shocked that he actually answered the phone because he's not a big media guy. Didn't think he would talk to me. So, A, when he picked up the phone, I was shocked. B, when he said, "I'm rabbit hunting," I was kind of taken aback. I mean, I knew Josh was a country guy from Dalzell, but I didn't expect him to be rabbit hunting and didn't expect him to pick up the phone. But he does that a lot. Loves hunting, loves fishing. It was hilarious.
We had plenty of people weigh in on the Firehouse Subs text line that would love to go rabbit hunting with Josh
really?
Simon now.
Well, we're among those people.
Yeah, he needs to actually maybe. I mean, those on the Firehouse Subs line, are y'all willing to pay to? I mean, in NIL,
so.
you can do that now. But I'll tell y'all what. I mean, I've been impressed with like just about all of the people we've had on for Garnet Trust Hour. But that was fun with Josh, and I mean, such a well-rounded guy. The number of things that he has, like, pretty detailed knowledge about when he was just rolling off of stuff about his business ideas for the future and what he wants to do after football and all those things. And you can just tell, very intelligent guy, involved in a lot of things. Super, super impressive. If you missed it, it'll be on the podcast feed or it'll be on YouTube for Gamecock Central as well. And Josh, here's the thing about Josh, to add a little bit more context from the spring. We heard a lot about these tight ends, and the sense that I got from talking to people is that, Trey Knox was a guy that comes in. He comes from Arkansas. You kind of knew what he could do. And so Trey Knox kind of was what they thought he was going to be. Josh Simon, obviously, they liked him quite a bit, or you don't recruit him. But
sure.
I think Simon was even better than maybe what he was expected to be coming in, making that jump, obviously, from Western Kentucky to South Carolina. He made it sort of seamlessly. He even talked about it, how he had a couple of days where he had to sort of get settled in and look around and be like, all right, I can do this. And so I think you're actually going to end up seeing South Carolina once again. This is something we've seen a ton of recently. We're going to once again see them putting two tight ends on the field a ton, I think, and creating mismatches with those two guys, because I think we didn't maybe know with all the turnover at that position if that would still be the case. But Josh is bigger than you expect him to be as well. Very big kid, very athletic. And very impressive.
Yeah, him and Trey Knox, and they've seemed to strike up a friendship. They're like the older heads in the room. You've got those guys, and then, frankly, a bunch of youngsters in that tight end room. The thing completely cleared out, and so it was important for Carolina to go sign a couple guys that had proven experience, and that's what they've got in these two. And so they've been able to kind of help each other out from what Josh told us. Trey Knox has some more familiarity, I would think, with some of the concepts that Dowell Loggins will be bringing from his time at Arkansas. Obviously, Dowell Loggins was Trey's position coach at Arkansas, so there's a lot of familiarity. They seem to help each other a lot. And with those two, you get a couple guys who have SEC size. They can catch passes. I think we don't talk about the blocking. That's probably an underrated aspect that both those guys seem to enjoy. I mean, Trey Knox talked to us a lot about it. This is a former high school wide receiver. but he spent a lot of time talking about his game with us in the couple conversations we've had with him through Garnet Trust, just about the blocking aspect and how much he enjoys that. So they look the part. It seems there's a lot of internal excitement about being able to have those two guys, because you lost some guys, a versatile room and a talented room last year. But to have these two be able to step in, I think it makes you feel a lot better.
And you mentioned those two, being able to be on the field at the same time. They're also very close in size as well. So playing a similar type of game at that tight end position, which, as you mentioned, should be able to utilize pretty well under Dow Loggins' new offense.
I'm curious to see how they're used. And speaking of that new offense, we always ask this question. You rarely get they're not going to go start drawing up X's and O's on the board and really tell you what it's going to look like. But Josh had the most maybe unique and surprising answer on what to expect from the offense. Chris, what did he say? It's like a well-tuned race car is the goal for what they want this offense to be this year. And I think Gamecock fans would be absolutely thrilled if you watch this offense this year and the first thing you think is, wow, that's a race car, then that's going to be a pretty good season, I think, for South Carolina.
And one other thing that he said that stuck out to me, and it's always interesting when you hear players that can offer this perspective, going from Western Kentucky in the Conference USA to now jumping up to the SEC, the difference in the game speed. And he was talking about how fast things develop and how quick these plays go by. And while it may only be a difference of a couple of seconds in real time, when you're on the field, that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, talking about how windows close so quickly. That's one thing you hear, I think, from a quarterback perspective, but that can be the case, especially if you're playing in the box from any position. That linebacker, you may think that linebacker is not in a position to find the angle to make a play, but he gets to the football so quickly that you don't end up maybe cutting off his path as a tight end like you should have. Maybe you don't have to sort of, not cheat, but maybe you don't have to sort of fire off the ball quite as quickly at that level as you do at the SEC. So I think processing what you're seeing, realizing how quickly what you're seeing can change in a flash, and doing all those things is a big part of it. But I'll be honest, y'all, I got no doubts in Josh Simon. I think this guy's going to be a player for South Carolina. Probably not the guy that steals the headlines. It's going to be Rattler, it's going to be Juice. But I think we're going to look back at the end of this season and be like, man, that Josh Simon, that was an excellent addition to the program for South Carolina.
And I don't remember which one of you brought this up. He does actually have 2 years of eligibility to use, so he could be back in 2024 as well.
I tried to...
You tried?
Tried to,
finesse it.
I tried to politely put him on the spot with it.
It seems likely. And you know what? That's fine. If he has the type of season where he could jump after this year and it makes sense, that probably means things have gone pretty well.
And you know what? If you're in college for 5 years, that's a long time. And I say that because, and I don't think I realized this either until recently, but the amount of wear and tear that your body takes in football at the college level is actually, from what guys tell me, a good bit more than what you're going to see in the NFL. The NFL is so focused on, hey, we have an efficient way to install and to hit as little as possible. Keep your body as finely tuned as possible, but keep your body as healthy as possible. And college ball is still a little bit more like, hey, we got to develop toughness. We got to, use our time wisely, and that's going to involve getting physical. We've even seen it sort of, I guess, get a little bit less in the college game as well. But from what guys tell me, it's still a huge difference, college game to the NFL. So once you start getting year 5, year 6, most guys, especially if you play a physical position, you're like, it's time to make the move.
Or year 9, like that guy out of Oregon.
I don't know. I still don't know how that worked.
Well, and that guy, I don't know, even with injury. He's had a lot of injuries.
3 season-ending injuries. That's something about how that came about.
And, hey, credit him. He's going back for more. He's definitely had a lot of wear and tear.
He's going to have 3 masters by the end of it.
PhD.
Right.
What is? I mean, how does that work? How do you get 9? Even in the past, you don't get a year, like you don't get an extra year every time you're out hurt.
He was a freshman in 2016. Yes. That'd be like if Brian Edwards was still on the roster. Seriously. I don't know.
You don't know?
It's kind of one of those things. You shrug your shoulders. You just say the NCAA. That usually answers the question.
Okay, so he redshirted in 16.
Yep.
His name is Cam McCormick? Yeah, Cam McCormick. He's a tight end. He played in 2017, and then he had 4 straight season-ending injuries.
Good Lord.
From 2018 to 2021. He was also hospitalized with rhabdomyolysis in 2017. And then he was able to finally get through a full season. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, generally the extent of it that you get is you get the COVID year in this era from 2020, and then you get like the medical red shirt, which Josh Simon had. And that's kind of
a max of 6 years.
Yeah, you kind of you think of it as a max of 6 years.
Yeah,
but
yeah, it's interesting. But anyway, if you missed any of that conversation with Josh Simon, I'll have it up shortly for you on the 107.5 The Game podcasting page. Coming up next, we will continue our preview of the Gamecocks opponents for 2023. Take a look at Tennessee, and that's coming up next. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs, 107.5 The Game.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, 107.5 The Game.
All right, guys, I know it can be tough to find gifts for sports fans in your life, but I've got a great idea for you. Look no further than our friends at Gold Line Framing in West Columbia. Maybe somebody in your life has a jersey that is their favorite. Maybe they got an autograph that is their favorite. Pretty much anything that could be framed to put on the wall. Our friends at Gold Line Framing can handle that for you with a custom framing job. That could be diplomas, original artwork, canvases, like I said, jerseys, maybe a flag. They've been in business for over 20 years, so they know how to take care of you. Head on over to 511 12th Street, West Columbia. In store, they've got an art gallery, home decor, furniture, and gift items for you to take a look at in person. If you got questions, just give them a call, 803-739-1337. They are open today, Tuesday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., and then Saturday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. They're also on Instagram at Goldline Framing SC. Again, that's our friends Kendall Walsh and manager Joni James at Goldline Framing in West Columbia.
Take a look at Tennessee. That's up next on 107.
Today is National Lazy Day, so what is the laziest thing you will admit to doing?
I was too lazy to bend over to pick up my makeup brush, so I picked it up with my toes.
Oh, that's not lazy. That's creative. That's being flexible and it's not lazy. That's good. You got toes. Okay. I wish I had that skill. But then again, I wouldn't want my feet near my makeup brush, necessarily. But you got
I didn't do my makeup with my feet.
Well, that would be interesting. I think we should do that in the live stream because that would be a talent. Can you curl your eyelashes with your toes?
For decades, Rolling Stone has set the bar for entertainment publications. Today, Rolling Stone Music Now takes over in podcast form.
It is incredible Beyonce is in this place that I think is so enviable. I mean, it's so interesting that she starts with ballads.
Yeah, when I opened the live stream, it's like, what's going on? I thought this was going to be a different tone for the opening of the concert, but it is really cool that she's doing this moment, as intimate as you can get in a Beyonce stadium show.
Rolling Stone Music Now, wherever you listen.
5 The Game.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Presented by Firehouse Subs. Founded by firemen with Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, and Tyler Head. On your home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game.
And welcome back into the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Presented by Firehouse Subs here on 107.5 The Game. Tyler, Wes, and Chris along with you on this Thursday morning. As we crawl through the summer, we continue to preview the Gamecocks opponents for 2023. Had Mississippi State the other day, and now in the 5th game of the season, they will head up to Knoxville and Neyland Stadium and go into what can only be described as a very, very hostile environment, as Tennessee will be looking to get their revenge for what happened at Williams-Brice Stadium last fall.
It is a tough environment. Did y'all see, Tyler, the Georgia player who had said that Neyland was, what did he say, best stadium?
The best stadium that he had played in. That is correct. I think it was Tate Ratledge, maybe.
Tate Ratledge said
I think
it.
so.
I don't know if I would have said that. It got taken the wrong way.
It did get taken the wrong way and taken out of context, and it did upset a lot of people. And look, I've never been to Neyland Stadium myself, but it's an intimidating environment.
It's steep.
Yes, there's tiny seats. They're built. It's right on top of you.
I think the actual seating capacity is 70, but they've made it 100 because each seat is a 3/4 at best.
If we had a gym sponsorship, I would mention them right now. But you need a couple workouts before you go out there because the seats are tiny, and then you're walking straight up, and then I don't know if this is still the case, but part of Neyland just looks old. You don't see it when you're on looking at it on TV. But there's one side where you enter, it looks like old classrooms or something. They got window units and stuff up there. It's an old. It is a kind of raggedy looking stadium in some places.
When you get in that upper, it's just the concrete look.
Need
the
oxygen.
Stairs. Yeah, it looks old, but definitely an intimidating place to play. There've been some
fun trip though.
Yeah, it is a fun trip. There've been some painful moments there for Gamecock fans. There've been some great moments there for Gamecock fans. We were talking about the 2005 game the other day, but I think Tennessee is one of the most fascinating teams in college football in general for me this season because of the guys they lost. Hendon Hooker, who was fantastic. Now you got Joe Milton, who we've seen some, and he has an absolute cannon. Him in this offense is very interesting. They lost some receivers. They lost Jalen Hyatt. They lost Cedric Tillman, who is super underrated. He was an absolute dog for them. What does this team look like? And I think, their schedule is very interesting. They open actually with Virginia. They have a schedule that while it's not easy, they play Bama and Tuscaloosa. They go to Columbia, Missouri. They go to Lexington. They got to play Georgia at home, but still you got to play Georgia. Got the Gamecocks coming. Go to Gainesville to play Florida. I think it's a schedule that sets up for them to have a pretty good year. Can they have a great year? And so, obviously, the South Carolina game is going to be a very important one for them.
I think we're already seeing Joe Milton kind of be he's kind of the darling right now going into this year because of the massive frame, maybe the strongest arm in the country.
Sure.
I don't even know if that's a maybe. I think it probably the strongest arm in the country. But, you look back, he was benched, right? That was not an injury. He was straight up.
He lost the job, if I remember correctly.
To Hendon Hooker.
Yes, and Hendon Hooker was a perfect fit for the offense that Josh Heupel runs.
Yeah, and so I get it. I think I saw a headline saying, hey, he's the next Anthony Richardson. That he's going to be sort of an NFL draft darling as well. And so right now, yes, the natural ability. It's been apparent ever since he was a recruit. I remember watching him out of high school, and very, very impressive dude. Had all the things you look for at quarterback. And so I think with him, everybody's gotten a little bit ahead of themselves, but also we've seen with this scheme, with what they do, if you can just play within what they're asking you to do, you're going to put up points, you're going to put up yardage. Both of these guys were kind of, Hooker lost his job at Virginia Tech, I think, or was in the process of losing his job. Milton was benched at Michigan. So both these guys had less than stellar careers before, and we saw Hooker just absolutely excel at Tennessee. So is there a path for Milton to do the exact same? I think so. Is it because he has the strongest arm in the country? I would say no. I think that's a fun thing to talk about on Twitter. For him, it's going to be just more about getting the ball where they ask you to in this scheme, because if you do, good things tend to happen. But I'll be curious to see, and I don't have that huge knowledge of their roster like maybe we do South Carolina, Chris, but how do they replace the receivers that they lose from this past year?
Yeah, you think about the receivers, they could just stretch you vertically with Jalen Hyatt. Obviously, Hooker had a good arm. You think about Milton and Hyatt. Jalen Hyatt just go run a 80-yard route, and Joe Milton will hit you in stride. They won't have that. But this scheme is so difficult to defend. Another
I think, underrated storyline is you do lose their offensive coordinator, Alex Golesh, now the head coach at South Florida. Now, it's Josh Heupel's scheme, but a lot of people in college football credited Golesh from kind of marrying Heupel's scheme, his passing game concepts, with some of the smash mouth stuff they did at Iowa State. With Golesh under Matt Campbell, you mix those two things, it became very, very difficult to stop. So they're still going to be really good on offense, I think, and that's because of their pieces and also the scheme. But I think you're right. This is a very quarterback-friendly system. Hendon Hooker was pretty good at Virginia Tech. Like, he never had more than 1,555 yards. 2019, he had 13 touchdowns, 2 picks. That's a good rate. Next year, 9 touchdowns, 5 picks. Only played in 8 games in 2020 during the COVID year. The next year, he goes into Tennessee's scheme, has 2,900 yards, 31 touchdowns, and 3 picks, and then what he did last year. So when you look at the trajectory, I think you're going to see Milton take a huge statistical jump coming in as a full-time starter, but just how good he can be, and then avoiding some of those mistakes that we've seen from him at Tennessee, at Michigan, at his pass stop, I think that'll be key for him.
Let's talk about this budding rivalry as well. You know, we like to think from a South Carolina perspective of maybe Georgia kind of being South Carolina's biggest rival within the conference, and then you always get that kind of pushback of, well, Georgia doesn't care about South Carolina. Georgia obviously has much bigger rivalries within the conference than the Gamecocks, and from their perspective, certainly true. But you look at Tennessee fans cannot make the case of, we don't care about South Carolina. South Carolina is beneath us. That doesn't fly, because Tennessee fans talk about South Carolina probably more than South Carolina ever brings them up. And you look, the 2 years, and you've got some excellent, I would say, flow here in that both schools brought in new coaches at the exact same time. So they're always going to kind of be compared to each other. And you have a Tennessee, pretty much lopsided blowout win over South Carolina in Knoxville. And then you have South Carolina responding with a absolute blowout of Tennessee in Columbia within the first 2 years. So these programs are going to be compared to each other traditionally the last 20 years or so. When one of them is down, the other has been able to take advantage, and the records are pretty even over the last 2 decades, and Tennessee fans don't really like to admit that, but you really, truly have a budding rivalry here within the conference, which I think is good for everybody.
Right, and it's certainly going to be a game full of high emotions in week number 5 when the Gamecocks do head out to Knoxville and Neyland Stadium. Coming up next, we'll wrap up today's edition of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs on 107.5 The Game.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. 107.5 The Game.
What's up, guys? We tell you every single week about our friends at Integrated Media. They have hooked our studio up with cameras everywhere. And once Terry learns how to use them, I promise you, we're going to stream live video right here in the studio. You may not need maybe to that extent of technology in your home office, but there are other things you might need in your home office or your man cave. That could be maybe you want to mount a new TV, maybe you want some surround sound, maybe you want to put a speaker outside for when you're grilling in this summer weather and are looking to kind of just upgrade that experience out there. Our friends at Integrated Media can take care of any and all of those needs for you. If you go to integratedmediainc.com, you can learn about everything they can do there, or you can just give them a call, 803-948-8327. Again, shout out our friends Integrated Media right here in the Midlands for any and all of your home audio visual needs.
Wrapping up the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour coming up next here on 107.5 The Game.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, founded by firemen, with Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, and Tyler Head on your home of the Gamecocks, 107.5 The Game.
And welcome back into the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler and Wes along with you for a few more minutes. Chris had to step out a couple of minutes early, and as we wrap up here, Wes tweeted this out about an hour ago. It's PJ Morlando, who is one of the recent commits for Gamecock baseball. Perfect Game USA tweeted this out. Tim taking some batting practice before the Perfect Game national game going on out at Chase Field in Arizona. And you commented, it's a beautiful swing that PJ Morlando has that led him to winning the high school home run derby on Monday night out there at the All-Star festivities.
Yeah, hit 8 home runs out there in a Major League Baseball stadium in 1 minute in front of 55,000 people. And if y'all want to go check it out, it's on my Twitter. This guy has one of the prettiest swings I've ever seen. Just effortless. It's actually a video I shared from Perfect Game USA. Hits an absolute bomb. And I don't know anything about his background or his recruitment or anything like that. Just looking at one clip, that guy's probably going to be hard to get to school because I can promise you he'll be a high draft pick. But certainly someone for Gamecock fans to know. Again, PJ Morlando, and so impressive, man. I am jealous of that stroke.
And that's the funny thing about baseball. You can be excited about getting these commitments, but then you look at it and you're like, man, I don't know if he's going to get here with somebody that has a swing that good or plays that well that he might get snatched up before he ever gets to campus.
Yeah, it's weird, man. You almost have to recruit well, but not too well in college baseball. And then, some guys maybe early on have a ton of hype, but they kind of drop a little bit and you end up having a chance to sign them. On the other hand, you maybe have a guy that you get committed to your program and he has, some upside, some tools, but isn't quite as good of a player yet. And then he just goes flying up the draft boards and ends up getting drafted and you don't get him to school. So I would say it's probably one of the most unique recruiting processes that exists because you just don't really see this in the other sports.
Definitely. I got really excited for a little while yesterday when rumors circulated that Ed Orgeron might have an interest in the now vacant Northwestern head coaching job. I was also sad to learn later last night that Bruce Feldman at The Athletic said that there was no truth to those rumors about Coach O possibly heading up to Evansville.
Well, yeah, and I can promise you they were not going to hire Ed O in the first place, but the thought was fun for a moment. I wonder where that initial report how it was even sourced.
So Colin and I have a theory that Coach O went to Northwestern State, which is in Louisiana. That maybe he heard something about Northwestern and assumed maybe it was his alma mater and then learned oh no, it's a team at the bottom of the barrel in the Big Ten. Yeah, I'm good.
I'm picturing him just sitting on a beach, not paying attention to anything going on. And then those wires got crossed. Because he had no idea Northwestern just fired their coach.
Yeah, he's completely out of the loop. No social media, none of that stuff. He's, like I said, sitting on a beach with his $17.1 million that LSU paid him to go away 2 years ago. And I don't know if we'll ever see him back coaching again. He certainly doesn't need it for more money. But, man, I just love to have Coach O back in college football.
It was fun while it lasted, if nothing else, for the interviews after the game that you had to kind of interpret to get a feel for what he was saying. But have you read Meat Market, by the way?
Read the book? No, yeah. I haven't.
You need to read that. Great, just a fantastic look at some behind the scenes of Ed O on the recruiting trail. And I believe, that was written by Bruce Feldman.
Okay.
And he got basically unlimited access to Ed O during a recruiting cycle. And just excellent behind the scenes view of sort of what he was all about. And I don't read much at all, but I read that one cover to cover. Outstanding book. And you should check it out, man, if you like Ed O, because it was really good.
I will have to check that out. And I love that, Orgeron's done some interviews and stuff since he's left coaching where he can tell some of those stories a little bit more in detail. I was listening to him talking to Dan Patrick the other day about some of the stuff he was doing out at Southern Cal. And, if anybody knows about the wild, wild west of recruiting, it's Ed Orgeron.
Well, yeah, the beauty is, like you said, once you have some time in place and, these podcasts a lot of times too, where something's happened 10, 15, 20 years ago.
The statute of limitations have passed.
Yes, it's passed, and you actually get some real story. Hey, not the media version.
Yes.
Not the this is what I have to say version. You get the this is what actually happened version. And those are always the best. And I'm noticing that actually with podcasts of people I watched play ball like when I was a kid or when I was younger.
Yep.
Especially at the professional level, are now coming out and telling stories from just crazy like locker room stories of stuff that happened back then, which is really cool.
I fully enjoyed the Johnny Football tell-alls that he's done on like Bussin' with the Boys.
I've not heard those.
He's gone into detail about quite a bit of stuff. There's actually with the Untold series on Netflix has a Johnny Football episode coming up in I think about a month, that as well as the Swamp Kings thing with the Florida program back in the 2000s.
I was about to say, I hope Johnny Football sold those rights for a very high price to tell those stories, because there's probably some real value to those.
Definitely. That'll do it for today's edition of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs. Halftime show with Terry coming up next on 107.5 The Game.
When we all finally can go out and do whatever we need to do and the pandemic is over, what is something you'll never ever do again because of the way we're doing things now, right? For example, somebody says, oh, you want to taking a bite of something? You want to try this? No, I'm good.
No. Birthday cake after being blown on. That's a good one.
Yeah, ain't turning down birthday cake. I don't care if someone farted on it. I'm still
Well, it would probably be scorched on top if somebody were to blow out the candles that way. I've seen that college trick a few times. Never went good.